On the coldest midwinter nights, when wolves circled the hovels and plague-fat rats gnawed through roof beams, medieval peasants pushed back with nothing but straw, the same brittle stalks they slept on, burned for bread ovens, and brewed into beer mash. Nobody chose straw out of bravado. Iron cost more than most villages earned in a year, and wood thick enough for palisades usually belonged to the Lord. But every harvest left mountains of wheat and rye stalks, and starving predators don't care about social hierarchies. By the first frost, shepherds in the Carpathian foothills twisted those leftovers into ropes as thick as an arm, soaked them in tallow fat, and ringed their sheepfolds with flickering straw torches. Wolves hate fire more than crossbows. Cheaper too, since the fat came from animals already butchered for taxes. When smoke drifted upslope, observers swore they heard entire packs change direction, like a ghostly herd deciding the menu wasn't worth the scorch. Still, fire alone couldn't guard sleeping livestock all night. So peasants built ragmen, life-sized dummies stuffed with straw, draped in worn tunics that reeked of human sweat. One miller's ledger from 1381 notes a deduction for 4 scarewolves with frost-stiff hats, a description so absurd it sounds like a medieval prank until you remember bones were on the line. Wolves learn faces. They also learn the smell of shepherds who throw stones. Give them a silhouette and a stench, and they hesitate just long enough for dogs or sling stones to fly. The truly thrifty coated the dummies with blood from hog slaughter, betting that a wet, iron scent paired with a silent figure would confuse a wolf's nose into believing rival predators had already claimed the territory. It's grotesque, but so was losing the family cow. For grain stores, straw served as both armor and alarm system. Rats love grain the way monks love illumination margins. They'll chew through oak if oats wait on the other side. Peasants responded by lining granary floors with loose chaff. When rodents scurried, the stalks rustled like someone walking on dry parchment. A single squeak set dogs barking, and half the household lunged for clubs. Yes, the midnight rat hunt was a family sport. Records from a 14th century manorial court at Littleport fine a tenant 5 pence for allowing vermin to prosper, suggesting the village took rat control as seriously as church attendance. You'd care too if your winter bread vanished in whiskers. The straw alarm evolved into a trap called the whisper pit. Farmers dug shallow pans beside granary doors, filled them with chaff, then balanced a wooden lid atop straw hinges. A rat chasing crumbs dropped onto the lid tilted, and the animal slid into a clay jug laced with more straw coated in pine resin. Picture an impromptu sticky roller invented 500 years before pest control glue boards. Rats couldn't climb the jug's slick walls, and the next morning the unlucky ones wound up in the stew pot of the poorest cottage. Protein is protein when blight kills your beans. Straw even worked as chemical warfare, though nobody owned the vocabulary. Nettles steeped in urine rendered a pungent liquid. Soak straw ropes in the concoction and hang them along walls, and wolves approaching downwind caught a nostril full of something that screamed larger predator. Chronicles from Sandomierz mention shepherds souring the hedge before night watch. Hard to verify the exact recipe, but we do know wolves loathe ammonia and bitter nettle oils. Toss in the medieval habit of believing if a smell offends you, it must alarm beasts, and suddenly, herbal urine straw ropes sound less like madness and more like low-budget logic. For barn cats, straw doubled as a training tool. Kittens raised inside scratch towers made of braided straw learned to climb, pounce, and, crucially, stay indoors where mice congregated. A Norwich churchwarden account lists 2 pennies for straw towers to keep the young mouser, because of course they documented the cat's furniture while ignoring the cat's name. But wait, it gets messier. In Tyrol, peasants packed wagon ruts with damp straw during wolf-heavy months. Hooves compressed the fiber into springy mats that deadened sound. Sneaking upon a wolf by stealth of cart seems counterintuitive until you remember archers riding shotgun. One surviving ballad praises Heine the miller who rolled silent as snow, arrow between straw-muffled wheels, and felled the gray king at dawn. Somewhere between propaganda and peasant TikTok, sure, yet contemporary tax rolls list a Heinrich paying wolf head bounty that winter. Anecdote meets ledger. You decide. Straw's versatility also shown in medicine, or what passed for it. Field guides advised boiling straw ash with vinegar, daubing the paste on bite wounds to draw forth the wolf's poison. Laugh if you like, but vinegar is mildly antiseptic, and ash keeps flies away. Considering the alternative, untreated infection, the placebo probably saved lives through sheer vigilance. Even domestic hearths became defensive sites. Families braided straw into great half-moon fenders, propped them against stone thresholds, and lit the outer edge briefly each dusk. The quick flare left a charline wolves associated with fire, while rats disliked the lingering scorched taste that settled onto their whiskers. Cheap psychological warfare, a fence that existed only in the minds of predators. Yet the cleverest straw trick stayed hidden, literally underground. Some villages ringed their orchards with sound ditches, shallow trenches lined with straw and covered by thin timber lids. When wolves, or thieves, stepped on the crust, the fiber compressed with an unmistakable crunch amplified by the hollow beneath. Imagine a medieval whoopee cushion loud enough to wake the cider press crew. An Italian friar visiting Saxony recorded his annoyance at sudden groans from the very earth each time he wandered after dark. That annoyance kept sheep alive. Of course, straw solutions weren't foolproof. A chronicler in Moravia recounts a winter when ice sealed the village well, pitch ran low, and straw torches fizzled. Wolves took 7 goats before the thaw, proving you can't out-DIY nature forever. Rats, meanwhile, breed faster than any trap. By spring, the granaries rattled again. But straw bought time, and time meant survival. What fascinates isn't merely the ingenuity, it's the peasant worldview. Straw was trash to the noble, tithes to the church, mattresses to the peasant, and, under enough pressure, weaponry. They lived in a repurposed universe where a byproduct could transform from roof to bed to torch to scarewolf before returning to soil. Sustainability before hashtags. Consider the communal aspect. A single torch ring needs 20 families twisting straw ropes through Advent evenings. Shared labor equals shared vigilance. Slack off and your neighbor's sheep becomes wolf chow, your own cornfield next. The material may have been humble, but the social contract was iron. Medieval juries didn't just decide guilt, they measured who had pulled their weight at the last rat sweep. Straw's symbolic power seeped into folklore as well. Eastern European lullabies warned that lazy children would sleep without straw, and thus invite the whiskered cold, a poetic personification of rats chewing through winter quilts. In Transylvania, brides carried a straw sheaf to the altar, so wolves, jealous of any unattended bundle, would follow the fake and spare the real livestock. Superstition? Obviously. But when you survive on rumor and rye bread, symbolism doubles as insurance policy. There's a darker punchline. During the worst plague waves, straw bundles marked infected houses. Wolves sniffed disease long before doctors spotted buboes. Towns noticed wolves avoided straw piles left outside quarantined cottages. Some councils paid shepherds to scatter straw near gates, hoping to trick wolves into steering clear. Public Health by Lupine Psychology. History's first focus-grouped signage. And let's spare a nod to the unexpected side hustle. Rat pelt trade. soft skins fetched coin in market towns where glove makers lacked better material. A family who emptied their whisper pit might sell a dozen pelts, enough to rent extra plow oxen next year. Straw thus bridged pest control and economy, proving that sometimes you really can turn trash into cash. By the 15th century, iron became cheaper, woods were coppiced legally, and straw's military career waned. Yet echoes survived. Even today, Scandinavian farmers lay straw bedding outside lambing pens so foxes smell human presence. Rural Romanians still thread nettle-soaked straw above door lintels, for luck, though they wink when saying the word. They remember what luck used to mean: one less predator alive, one more loaf unnibbled. So the next time a bale tumbles off a modern tractor, picture that cascade of golden stalks not as farm clutter, but as medieval Swiss Army knives. Those stalks once hissed in homemade torches, whispered beneath wolf paws, squeaked under rat feet, and carried the scent of every human fear and clever workaround packed into a single brittle fiber. History's grand inventions, gunpowder, printing presses, astrolabes, get all the spotlight, but humble straw quietly kept Europe's poorest breathing long enough to greet those revolutions. Because survival isn't always steel against fang. Sometimes it's the rustle, spark, and stink of plants nobody bothered to thresh twice. And if that sounds absurd, remember, people once looked at death on four legs and thought, "I can handle this, hold my straw."